Okay. Good evening, everyone. With great pleasure, I welcome all of you to 6th ForeignGrad webinar by a distinguished scholar, Dr. Cassandra Akinde, on the topic of Chevening Scholarship and London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, step-by-step application process. I am Dhananjay Kumar, and I am currently pursuing Masters in Public Policy from King's College London as a Chevening Scholar. Today's webinar is a part of new initiative, a scholar series launched by our exceptional team at ForeignGrad. For this series, we will be inviting scholars from around the world to create awareness about various scholarships, university applications, opportunities to young people amongst prospective applicants with focus on first generation learners and students that belong to socially and economically disadvantaged section of society. With this, I invite Dr. Cassandra Akinde, who secured admission in MSc in International Health and Tropical Medicine at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So welcome, Dr. Cassandra.
Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. I really appreciate
So Dr. Cassandra, you had an interesting journey so far. Would you like to share some of the highlights of your journey with our viewers?
Well, you're right. I've actually had a very interesting journey as a Chevening scholar. I'm sure some might definitely say so. One of my highlights that I can think of, would be in March, when I was actually selected to visit the Duchess of Sussex at Buckingham Palace. So we were 4 Chevening scholars and 15 Commonwealth scholars. So I was so surprised, to be randomly selected, just 4 Chevening scholars, and of all, the 1,750 scholars, I was called upon. So I was very honored, humbled, and appreciative of this particular opportunity. And I was really looking forward to it because, the Duchess of Sussex, that's Meghan Markle, is someone that I've admired a long time, like for real. So I was so, happy, excited, ecstatic. And when we went, to the Buckingham Palace for the royalty with her, I met her, we had a brief conversation, and I really saw how amazing she is, And of course, after that, we took some pictures. And after that, we also had the opportunity to go to the Commonwealth Observation Day at Westminster Abbey. And, there too, it was amazing. I saw the Queen, Queen Elizabeth, the other members of the royal family, and I was actually opportune to even link up with someone that I admire in Nigeria. So she was actually the flag bearer of the Commonwealth flag, So I was like, so proud, and that day was really amazing for me, So yeah, that's was one of my highlights, And the second highlight occurred recently. So I was actually invited for the Chevening Volunteering Award ceremony for the 2019-2020 academic session, and I've volunteered for Chevening for the past 1 year, almost 1 year. So yeah, and I was so surprised when, I got the Golden Award. So I was one of the top 7 scholars to win the Golden Award, and that means that I contributed about 100 hours of volunteering to Chevening while we were studying, So to me, I was actually a little bit surprised because, volunteering is like a lifestyle to me. I just volunteer. Like whenever I have the opportunity, I just volunteer. Like I'm a student ambassador in my school. That's for LSHTM. That's part of my volunteering activity. I'm also volunteering with Save the Children, as a campaign champion. It's just something I do. And during Christmas, because at that time I was really undergoing lots of stress because I was preparing for exams. I was actually writing double set of exams. And I just took some time, to just go out there and do some volunteering with the homeless crisis at Christmas. And it was a very good, opportunity for me to really help people, provide emotional support, and in turn actually also be supported, because when you can help someone, it helps you as well, And it was also a very amazing opportunity for me. So when I was recognized, as top 7, I was so surprised. I was honored, and most importantly, I was inspired by other volunteers, because one of the Chevening volunteers, so she's from Lebanon, Basma, she actually contributed over 300 hours to volunteering, and I met her at one of the events when we went trees for plants. We planted some trees in East London, and that's when I met her, and just meeting her. So she actually studies at the University of Oxford. Just meeting her alone really inspired me, So I was really happy to connect with like-minded individuals who share my passion for volunteering, and someone who volunteers so selflessly. And of course, when she was honored, I was just so happy, inspired to just be in the same room with her, So I just think that those were like the highlights of my Chevening journey so far, those two.
Perfect.
And I guess I also got that.
Even when I saw your picture with the Queen Elizabeth and other royal family members, I felt so proud that, I worked with Cassandra, and I was proud to see, you got opportunity to meet them, and your work with mainly with the children. I'm sure that has defined a new way for many people and helped many people in your country and wherever you worked. So with this, I want to move to a second question, that you have a highly successful medical career. So why and how you decided to pursue a master degree from abroad? Or why you wanted to become a Chevening scholar? You had a very successful medical career.
Well, when you say successful medical career, well, I would say, I guess, I can't really say it's so successful, So basically, in medical school, I was actually a nerd, I used to read books most of the time. I spent my time in the library. I wasn't into, my social life was almost non-existent. So that's all I knew, because I was, in pursuit of academic excellence. That's what I was after, becoming the best doctor I can be. But in that pursuit, during my 5th year, I got introduced to, so it was like a transition between our clinical year to our final year, but in between there's a gap. So the course is called community health. So what it involves actually is to go to the communities, especially the rural areas, and provide essential healthcare services, and also conduct some interviews with the people. And I was involved in that, of course, and just being in that environment, because I've never really actually gone to those areas before, interestingly enough. So when I went there, I started communicating with the people and trying to understand their needs, and just listening to them, to know exactly what their problems are and how we can help them. I started thinking that, I have all this, I'm a medical student, I have to do something. Because as it is, at that time, I used to be one of those, anxious critics, always criticizing the system, this thing is happening, children are dying, this is happening, but why? What can I do as a person, as an individual? What can I do to change that narrative? And that's when I decided that, I need to do something. And I started volunteering for an organization in school that one of my friends actually founded. It's called the New Child Initiative. And I started as a volunteer. And there actually, so I felt this, sense of fulfillment, because I was not able to apply my skills as a medical doctor, knowledge, and go into these communities, provide free essential healthcare services, teach them, things about hand hygiene, nutrition, give them all this free health information to empower them so that they can, to improve the health outcomes of those community, especially the ones that are marginalized and the ones that are poorly accessible. And so as I did all that, I realized that, okay, we conduct these community outreaches, these community health outreaches, but the problem is that, you go to one community, you conduct your outreach, and then you go to another community, right? But there's no like way of sustaining that impact. And so I was interested in finding ways of making that impact more sustainable and more innovative, like finding solutions to this kind of problems. And that's when I started thinking about getting a master's degree, because I wanted to, my professional academic aspirations, I wanted to make sure that I build my capacity in terms of, technical expertise, skills, knowledge, and even research. Because actually at that particular time, I actually started reading some articles, and they were talking about how a particular community health intervention was done in this particular setting. And I was thinking if this particular concept can be applied in my particular setting, So all these things started broadening my horizon. I started thinking about what can I do? And I definitely knew that just being a medical doctor alone, because I after graduating from medical school, I practiced for 3 years. So 2 years in public setting and 1 year in private setting. And I knew that just that experience alone cannot help me do what I want to do, help me to achieve what I want to achieve. And the only way I can do it is to get a master's degree. So that's when I realized that I need to get a master's, and I need to find ways of doing that.
Perfect. So again, becoming a Chevening Scholar and then pursuing master degree from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which is one of the topmost universities in the world. So would you like to share about your Chevening application process and how one should approach this application process?
Yeah, definitely. So for Chevening application, it's a very it's a very interesting process, and it's a very rigorous process. So some people don't know this, but I didn't get Chevening scholarship on my first trial. I actually got it on my second trial. And so what it taught me, is that I have to be more intentional, and I have to have a clear sense of purpose. And so based on that, I had to actually, think and do some kind of like personal auditing, like a checklist of what I have, who am I, what are those experiences I have, are they aligning with what Chevening is looking for? Because, they say Chevening is looking for young individuals, they are cultivating young individuals who are change makers, decision makers, policy, opinion formers, and I had to think about it, that do I even, fit into that criteria? Like, am I in that checklist? And when I decided that yes, I am, I started asking other questions like, okay, which university would I want to go to? Which course would I want to get? Would this course align with my professional career? Because I have to map up my career plan as well, and how will I be able to use this particular course to help, to serve others and help my country, in the development of the country. So I had to start thinking of all those particular things. And when I did that, I also thought about the fact that, am I even like worthy to be invested upon? Can I actually deliver all these results? And would I definitely, like, after I achieve everything, will I go back to my country? Because you have to look at everything. So you have to look at the eligibility criteria for Chevening as well, and check that you are fit in every regard, and also do your own personal checklist as well. Like, think about it, like, retrospectively, everything you've achieved. Who are you? What do you stand for? Do you have all these qualities that they are looking for? Are you passionate about the development of your country? Because this is not a scholarship where you can just, go for greener pastures. It's for people that really are passionate. And you need to be sure of what you want to do. And so when I realized that I fit all that criteria, I now started preparing, because I realized that the first mistake I made in my first trial is that I did not prepare adequately. I was actually lazy. So let me just say it that way, because I did not even put up my best effort. I didn't bring my A game into that application. I was all about, let me just quickly write something and quickly apply, so that I could quickly get it. I didn't even do like appropriate research for it, like meaning that I did not even look at all the application tips. I did not really talk to so many alumni. I didn't even like read about them. And that was some of the mistakes I actually made. So that's why for the second time, I made sure that I didn't do any of those. So I had a good strategy. I had enough time to prepare. I remember one of my mentors actually told me that he took almost 4 years to prepare for Chevening Scholarship. He actually had to read everything. And also it's because he realized that wasn't investment worthy. Like he didn't have all those skills that Chevening is requiring you to have. And so he now started investing in himself so that he can get that credence, he can get that professional proven track record that yes, this is what you have. So that's what I actually tried to do. And I also made sure that I had a good support system, because in my first trial, I didn't have people that I could share my work with, and accountability partner. I was all about just me. Let me just apply. It's me. But it's not just about you. And right now, like when I'm in my school, I see these 3 people from Cameroon. So, and I found out from my interaction with them that, they studied together in university, and, they applied for Chevening at the same time. And during the whole Chevening process, they were a support to each other. And now they are Chevening scholars, and now we're about to finish this whole Chevening journey. So when I see them, that camaraderie between them, I wish I had that. So that's why it's something that I learned. Unfortunately for me, the people I, had the interaction with, they didn't really make it. But however, it's important for you to have a good support system. Make sure you reach out to the alumni, have discussions with them. Look for various resources on the Chevening website. Everything is there. The history, what they stand for, the Chevening partners, the Chevening universities, the courses, the people. Everything is there. So the idea is that you need to really invest yourself in educating yourself in everything that is. It's just actually out there. And if you can really do that, then I guess everything will go well for you. So yeah, so those are just some of the things that I made sure I did for the Chevening application. And of course, at that time also, I wasn't very good in writing. So I made sure that I invested in that skill. I started learning how to write. I looked at resources. I remember looking at this particular resource where they talked about some words, or some verbs rather, that are particularly for networking, and some verbs that are particularly for leadership, And so I started making sure that in my essays, I made sure that I applied all of that. For my leadership, these are the verbs that I want to be showing, and these are the verbs that I want to be showing in networking essay. So that's what I was basically doing for my application. So, and like I said, you really need to invest yourself fully, 100%. It's not something that, you see someone, is a Chevening scholar, let me apply. You have to have what we call like a winning mentality, and making sure that, yes, you put up all your best effort. You need to take time and prepare for it. Develop a strategy. Make sure you work with the timeline as well, because they have timeline, and prepare adequately for it.
Perfect. So the crux is that one has to do the research, and one has to give 100% while applying in the Chevening process. So with this, we all know that in Chevening application, there are 4 questions. So what I'm going to do, we are going to discuss individual questions, and we'll ask the approach from Dr. Cassandra. So Cassandra, can you give me an idea that how an aspirant should approach a leadership question in Chevening essay?
Yeah. So leadership, yeah, it's actually a very interesting question, actually. So I remember for me, the leadership. So the first time, the kind of thing, in fact, anytime I remember what I wrote in my first time, I'm like, my God, I'm so embarrassed even to read those essays, But this is my second one that I came up with. I actually started thinking about, I wrote out all my volunteering experiences. So for me, so I just want to first, make this known, is that when we're talking about leadership, it doesn't mean, like, for me, it was through volunteering, but through someone else, it can be through another way. The idea is that, you have to have like a personal definition for leadership. You need to understand what leadership is all about. And meaning that it's basically, you see a problem, you find a way to solve it with collaboration of others, and you try to do that to make an impact. That's the idea, just like the simple explanation of that. And that means that, for example, let me just give examples. This for example, maybe in medical school, right? you see that there's a particular problem, and maybe they're not paying the residents or the doctors or the house officers, they're not paying them, right, and you decide that no, you need to do something, so you gather people, and you lead a protest attack, and then you go and discuss with the relevant stakeholders and discuss the terms and conditions. That's already a way of showing leadership, leadership potential. It doesn't have to be like, for me, it's through volunteering, because that's how I was able to get. But however, if you're into school politics, for example, maybe you're into student union, things like that, you can also show, you can have any kind of leadership position. You can even be a secretary, or a treasurer, or a financial secretary, or welfare officer, any of those things, and that already is a leadership position. It's just what makes you different now is how you're able to relate your life experience, your project, or whatever it is that you did at that particular time, and how you're able to communicate it in your essay. So that's something that I just wanted to make it clear for everyone to understand. But I'm going to talk about volunteering because that's my area of specialty. But for everyone else, they might have other, ways of showing leadership, and that's fine. So that's what I want to. The only one I can say that I don't really, I've been doing some readings of some of the essays that some of the prospective scholars have sent me. And some of them talk about, leadership being for example, maybe they are the firstborn, and they're talking about responsibility. So it's just good for you to know that that's not the kind of leadership we are looking at. So try not to mistake those two things. So yeah, so for me, the leadership, so what I did in my leadership essay was that, first of all, I gave my personal definition of leadership. And I talked about how I, started as a volunteer, and, gradually I was now able to become the team lead, because now I'm the team lead of the organization that I volunteered for. And of course, how the whole process of how I was able to gain this skill, and how I was able to even show it, So I talked about, so I always talk about the case of tetanus in my community, and how I was how during my medical school I saw that problem, and that's when we now came together to make a campaign, to #end tetanus, and how we're able to mobilize volunteers, to be able to create more awareness about this particular, preventable vaccine preventable disease that should not even be in this context. No child should be dying from tetanus. That's the idea. So we started creating awareness about it through mass media, social media, and then of course at the end, we now had a community intervention where we actually vaccinated children who have not had tetanus vaccination before. So, and that whole process, I talked about it. So first of all, in your leadership essay, you should just divide into your introduction to talk about what leadership means to you and whatever you want to say. But make sure it's a compelling, you have to start in a compelling manner, because whoever reads your essay needs to know that you have substance, and it has to start well, So that's for your introduction. Then for your body, the body aspect of it, you need to use this STAR approach. So that's situation, task, action, result. So your situation, you need to describe what exactly is the problem. What did you find, in that your community, or in your environment, or in your school, or wherever it is. This is what you found. Now the task, what you are going to do. You're mobilizing volunteers, you're mobilizing resources, you're gaining fund, you're fundraising so that you can do a particular action, right? Now the action itself, what exactly did you do, And as you are talking about that, you can also talk about the challenges that you've encountered and how you were able to address them, or any lessons that you learned. So for example, for us, during our campaign that I talked about, the enterprise campaign, I talked about how we had issues. So when we went to the community, we had some resistance, from the community leaders, because we couldn't speak their language. They had their particular dialect that none of us could speak. I don't even speak local dialects very well myself. So I had to look for someone who could. So when we found someone who could, we were now able to address that problem of language barrier. And of course, we now started making sure that we recruit more volunteers who could speak that particular dialect. So you talk about that. And then your results, you now talk about, you need to bring some statistics, some figures, because you need to now be able to demonstrate your impact. And that means you have to have numbers. Because, if you're talking about, for example, you reduced a particular, maybe childhood mortality statistics or something, you need to show how and the numbers. Or maybe, for example, you improve the knowledge of a particular topic.
Perfect.
Show the pre-intervention, assessment and what was the post-intervention assessment. So you have to put it out there. It's not just, and everything was well afterwards. No, you have to say how. So it's very important. So that's your start approach that you have to do in your body of your leadership essay. And then in the end, your conclusion, and you have to now conclude also on a very powerful note that that's the reason why you have to relate it to Chevening again, because every sentence you make has to demonstrate your passion, vision, and impact in all your essays. And at the end too, you need to now make sure that you relate it to Chevening and how will this your leadership role make you the best ideal candidate for Chevening. So you have to make sure you write it at the end as well. So that is how I approached my leadership essay. However, I said it can be approached in many ways, but most importantly, the idea must be there, and it has to have a good structure, and it has to have a good flow. So everything has to align, and it also has to align with the course of choice you are, choosing. So everything has to align.
Perfect. So Cassandra describe like how to approach the leadership essay in a detailed manner, and she explained that you need to give the background. You may go for a star approach, and then you can give a conclusion that how your leadership skill will help Chevening and other fellows. So you need to follow this basic structure that can vary from person to person, but she explained in a very detailed manner how to approach this leadership essay. With this, we'll move to the next question. And Cassandra, can you explain how to approach networking question in Chevening essay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure. So for networking, so what I did is that I actually linked my leadership with my networking, because it all goes together. It's not like it's a separate experience, although you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I personally joined it together. And again, I also started my networking essay with my own personal definition of what networking is to me and what have I done with it. So for me, I talked about how basically networking basically is just leveraging on relationships to make an impact, to influence change and make an impact. That's basically what it is. And so I talked about, so in my networking essay, I talked about how I was able to, I had a certain skill that I wanted people to have. And so I was able to create a WhatsApp group and do some trainings on WhatsApp, so to be able to give them some transferable skills, some particular, for example, fundraising, content creation, graphic design. And I was able to empower them with all those skills. And in the end, they were able to use those skills that we trained them on to improve our campaign in the former leadership. For example, I talked about the #EndTetanus campaign that I did. So that's basically that. You are able to, come together, as you mobilize your volunteers, you teach them this, they now have those skills, they now go and make an impact. And from there, they keep using those skills to make an impact. So that's what I use. There are other various ways, there are people that talk about where, for example, maybe you were in a conference, you met somebody, you created a relationship with that person, and now you're collaborating on a particular project, and from there you keep collaborating, That's also another example of networking. So there are various ways. So, but basically that's just the idea. And it's also very important for you to just be authentic and know what it is that you did. So whatever it is you're writing must be true, because during the interview, they will not ask you questions based on that. And if you cannot answer some simple questions based on what you've written, it means that you must have lied, So it's very important for you to be personal, authentic in everything you're writing. And don't forget that in every line, you are still demonstrating your passion, vision, and impact, even in your networking essay, which is very important to take note. And of course, you conclude also on a powerful note. So your introduction, body, and conclusion.
So I completely agree with Cassandra that, I also did in same manner that my leadership essay and networking essay was connected. In leadership essay, my focus was on impact, whereas in networking essay, my focus was on the process, that how I achieved that impact. So in networking essay, I think take the example of leadership and explain the process, that in that process how we engage with an individual, group of people, professor, academician, institutions, NGO, government. You can explain in a different manner and how you achieved your goal. So with this, I will move to third essay of tuning. So Cassandra, third question, can you explain to the viewer that how one should answer study in UK questions of the tuning essay?
Okay, study in UK question. Yeah, so study in UK question. I remember for me, like I said, anytime I remember the first time I wrote that essay for the first time, nothing to write home about. So that's why when I now went back to understand what exactly that question meant, and I also made sure that I paid attention to details. That's something also you need to take note of. You must pay attention to details. Read that question several times. Try to make sure you understand what they're asking. So to actually answer that question, I actually checked the website, I looked at some things and I started getting ideas of what I could write. And so when I wanted to answer that question, I did a very serious research. So the study in UK question basically asks you, why do you want to study in UK, and why that course and why that university. So you must really justify why, and there are some things that, is a common fact. Yes, we all know that, that university, like European, like UK education is one of the best, but I was looking for something unique, that would really put me out there. And so I've already done like a research on my universities while I was preparing, for my application process. And so what I did is that after writing on Google that, okay, best schools in tropical medicine, because I'm doing tropical medicine and international health, so that's my course, I found like 15 schools, right? So out of those 15 schools, I started now doing like inclusion and exclusion criteria based on my own parameters that I found, that I wanted. So I looked at ranking, I looked at location, I looked at the alumni of that particular school, the professors, the experts in that school, and I also looked at the course fees and the requirements. Because, for example, for some of us, we have to have like English proficiency test, and some of these courses, like I remember I had to exclude some of them because my English proficiency test and my IELTS did not meet the criteria of some of those schools. So I just had to, let go of those particular schools. And by the time I now wrote it down based on my criteria, I now had like 5 schools left. So out of those 5 schools, I now really went further to read more about those universities, and when I'm looking at those universities, I looked at the course itself, what are the modules that it offers, who are the professors there? Are there any even like Nigerian alumni, from my own country? Like, let me even see, is there anyone, And I really did a very, very, very deep research in that regard. And when I did that, I now remember the article that I actually read about the applied research and innovation that actually encouraged me to actually apply for masters. And that was actually published by one of the lecturers in that school that I was in, LSHTM, And then I thought, oh my God, this is it, But this is actually one of the reasons why I actually wanted to. But at that point in time, I had to think, what could be the reason that I want to study in UK, And that's why I now started building the block for that, my essay. And that's why I now talked about the professors I would like to meet, and the research that they've done, even some of the alumni, the power of the alumni network and how it's going to improve my network and how I can also improve network in my community, in my country. So I looked at the course requirements as well, because what can the course offer? Does it align with my professional goals? And yes, it did. And so I made sure that, yes, I talked about each one of them. But for the question itself, how you have to approach it is that you write your introduction again, basically, why do you want to study UK? Just say something like in general, but also like a powerful statement. And then, because it's 3 choices you have, it's not just one choice. So you now have to talk, you have to make first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph for each one of them and get some peculiar characteristics about each one of them. And also make sure that the courses you are choosing, it's similar. It's not something different. Even in medicine, it can be completely different. So for example, if you say, so that was one of the mistakes I actually made the first time. I wrote reproductive health and sexual research. I wrote public health, and then I wrote One Health. You know, so those three things are not the same. I know some people might think that it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. So that is why you have to be sure what you want. So now this time around, I now chose the one I really want: tropical medicine, international health, tropical medicine and international health, and something else that is still related to that. You know, so you need to make sure that it is clear. If it is public health you want to do, public health for development, it's still in the same line. So that makes it. But if you write something that is completely different, they'll know that you are not, you don't have a clear purpose. You don't have a clarity of purpose. You don't know what you are doing. You don't know where you want to go. Because like I said before, it has to align with your career goals. And it will be clear in your essay if it's not. And everything, in fact, everything has to be aligned in this. So it's very important. And so when you write your first paragraph, second paragraph, third paragraph for each of the schools and the universities, why is the reason you want to go to this university and apply for this particular course? You know, for the university, like I say, it can be the ranking, it can be the location. Like for example, London, you know, that's why I chose London, because there are lots of networking opportunities. There are a lot of programs occurring in London. There are a lot of internship opportunities in London. So that's why I chose London, you know. So in terms of ranking too, you know that particular course of yours is like highest ranked in the world, and that is why you chose that particular one, that's in that particular school, you know. Or like I said, the professors, the research, or even it can even be a field trip, anyone, just something out of the ordinary, something that you've read that shows that you have done your research. As I always say, research is very, very important. And so when you do that, the first, second, and third, you now conclude with the final one, you know, like another part of the statement. So that's how I approached my 𝐬𝐿, but you must make sure that, and also you can add some other bits in the end. Like for example, I talked about history because I like history. I talked about art because that's what I like. So I just put some of those things together and how I like to experience that particular aspect. Some people talk about football, you know, some people talk about diversity, some people talk about culture. So it depends on what, but you must put something there as well. And it's important because in the end, during the interview as well, they will ask you some of those questions. And if you can just say something, you know, regarding that, they will know that definitely you have a genuine interest, you know, to study in UK. It's not because, okay, UK is one of the best places to study. You need to know why exactly. So find your own why and put it out there and communicate it clearly to them.
Perfect. So let's the next question is connected with this, that after your master degree, we need to explain our career goal. So how to approach career goal question in Chevening essay?
Oh, so career goal question is a very important question. In fact, it's like the make or break of your application. So you can't, joke with it. You even, like I said, like something that I did before even applying, so I mapped out my career plan. You know, I already knew that, okay, this is what I want. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you know, so, and this is what I want in my 10-year plan. So you need to map it out well and know who you need to, be able to have a relationship with to be able to get to that particular place. So for career plan now, you need to make sure that, first of all, it's also related to the Department of International Development areas, the priority areas in your country. Whatever it is, you must align it with that. It is very important. So in every country, I think that it differs. So basically just go and look at the foreign policy in your country. It's very important, and especially what are the priority areas and what are those projects that the Department for International Development has done in your country. It is very important because you need to align it with your career plans. So for what I did for my career plan is that, I talked about, like, I started again my introduction, you know, and then my first paragraph talked about, like, immediately, like the first 2 years, what I'm going to do when I get back to the country, like, those things that I'm going to do. Then I talked about this. The next one was now in 3-4 years time, what I'm doing. So basically, like your short-term goal, intermediate goal, your long-term goal. But I had for each paragraph, I talked about what I'm going to do, you know, and then I concluded, which was very important because I remember during the interview, I actually had to draw my career plan for them, you know, and show them that, okay, this is where I want to be. and this is the job description that aligns with what I've learned in my school. But like I said, you have to look at your course, you have to look at the modules. So a particular module in that school, for example, maybe designing of control programs in developing countries, you know that particular module will help you in designing control programs in maybe a Ministry of Health, you know? So you use that particular knowledge that you've learned and technical expertise to go and design that's your work description. You are going to do that, of course, with others and with the help of everyone else, you know, in your context. So you have to make sure you align it again with that. And then, of course, after that, maybe you've been liaising with maybe World Health Organization, you know, and then from there you now go further. You now want to work with World Health Organization, you know, so that you have a larger platform to continue improving global health worldwide. And so you now have to research about that particular role that you are saying you want to attain. What are those skills that you need? And then again, you can align it with maybe a module you did or a certain skill that you gathered in that your former role. So everything has to have a logical flow, like I said, and it has to show that, you know, you've thought about every stage. And for me, during my interview, since I already mapped out I drew my career plan, I was able to tell them every year, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And then at the end, my 10-year career plan, this is where I want to end up, you know. So it's very important. That career plan is, like I said, is very important. You have to really sit down and think about your strengths, your weaknesses, and, you know, come up with something that is ideal and that also aligns with the Department for International Development priority areas and, of course, your own passion.
Amazing. So Cassandra explained 4 Chevening essays in a detailed manner, and the crux of her point is that all essays should be in a logical manner and should flow in a direction and should be connected from each other. So leadership essay must be connected with networking, and then how you want to achieve through like what you want to study in UK, and then how you want to achieve your career goal through by studying in UK. So every essay need to be in a logical sequence and should be connected in some manner. So with this, we'll move to two more question, and this question is regarding how a university. Then Cassandra, why you choose London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine for your master degree? Can you tell the viewers a little bit about this particular university and and why this university is famous? In which course this university is famous?
Yeah, so for me, when I was doing my research, even before I did my research, already people recommended, you know, LSHTM to me. Mm-hmm. So I already had lots of alumni from that school, you know, mm-hmm. and people always told me about how, you know, it had great academic atmosphere, you know, and it was actually world renowned in, you know, tropical medicine, global health, and even research. So I knew that that's a particular school that I definitely want to be in. Mm-hmm. You know? And the fact that I knew that, you know, like I said, lots of alumni, and I knew a particular professor that actually was working, that has been, you know, publishing amazing works, you know. So in my mind at that point, I already knew that that's the school I really want to be in. And also I like the fact that, you know, it had diversity, like kind of professors, you know, like world famous professors, you know, even as now that I'm in this school, I see how, you know, world famous professors will just come and teach us, you know, and I'll be surprised I have that ability to even like go and talk to them, you know, like get more information from them, you know. And I also like the whole atmosphere, because most of these professors, they're so unassuming, you know. If they don't know something, they'll tell you they don't know, you know, which was actually very surprising to me, because I used to think that, you know, professors must know everything. But they like to work with you, collaborative, they like to speak to you, they like to work with you in terms of any problems you had, you know. And I also looked at the fact that, you know, there were mentorship opportunities for me. So this was some of the reasons I actually chose LSHTM. And my course too was one of the like well celebrated, you know, and I knew that that's the particular course I want to do, and this is the school I definitely want to be at.
So last question, Dr. Cassandra, that can you explain to the viewers that how to approach that statement of purpose for any university application?
Okay. Well, so like I said, when I was preparing for my Chevening, like I said, preparation is key. So I already had the conditional offer from LSHTM. So, which is important, like for you to make sure you get all your documents ready. You don't want to waste time in that regard. When you get your junior scholarship, that's not time for you to start looking for a conditional offer. So I actually applied to LSHTM like that first time that I didn't get Chevening, but I got the offer. So what it actually needed for my course specifically, I can't talk about any other course, but in general, what they really want from you is, like you said, your personal statement, 2 references, English proficiency test. If you're a medical doctor like me and you're doing tropical medicine and international health course, you have to give them your medical license, the updated one. It's very important. And of course, your transcript and your certificates, because they want to see, what were your grades like in medical school. So those are some of the things that they really look at. And for example, I remember talking with my program director, and he told me about how he is very, very keen on looking at the references specifically, because sometimes most of the times they actually read those references. So you need to really invest in those references. So it's not about just giving it to anybody. You need to make sure the person you're giving to knows you very well and can actually vouch for you, vouch for your character. So for the personal statements, for example, for LSHTM, that too, you have to be very intentional about it. It's something that you really have to take your time for. So basically, for personal statement, I think they have some questions that you have to be able to answer that you must make sure you show in your letter. And the questions that you have to add, that you have to be able to answer is something like, why do you want to study? Why do you want to study in LSHTM, for example? And how will it benefit you? So you must be able to answer that question. Then another question that you need to be able to answer is why that particular course? Why is that particular course the best for you? What kind of experiences have you had that makes you best candidate to be able to study that particular course? So that's also very important. And then, of course, you need to be able to explain how do you stand out, like what it is about you that makes you so special, So for me, I remember when I spoke to my program director, he actually told me that what he was because, so I don't know, FYI, but in LSHTM, every program director reads the personal statement. So for example, in mine, they were like almost 200, and he actually read all the 200. So he took time to read each one of them. I was actually surprised because, but he actually took time to read every one of them. And so you need to be able to show what it is about. So for me, he told me that when he read mine, he was actually very impressed with my volunteering experience, because I talked about how I volunteered in so many aspects, what I learned from each encounter, and what made me a better doctor in terms of communication, in terms of empathy. So you must be able to answer those questions. And also you need to be able to answer, like, what will you contribute to the university, to the department, to the faculty, And so what I talked about is that I definitely want to become a student ambassador. And that's what I actually am now, a student ambassador for the school. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to create more information about my own particular course, because my course is specifically for medical doctors who are practicing in low and middle income countries, and unfortunately, not many people know about that course. More people are always focused on public health, because everyone hears public health. And so everyone wants to study that, which is good, of course, but there are some particular courses that are specifically for this kind of people, that the medical doctors, and that especially that that work in low resource settings. And so they can actually equip you with certain skills that you, like evidence-based skills that you need to make your clinical decisions. And that's why I told her how I want to make sure that I'm going to create more awareness about it within my network, within my responsibility, and I talk more about what I'm going to bring to the table, because it's not all about, what will the school do for you. It's what you are going to do for the school as well. So you need to make sure that you write what it is. So I'm just giving an example of student ambassador. You can give an example of anything else. It doesn't have to be that. It can be student union. It can be, you have to look at it. You have to look at the social, the campus life of the university. So it needs to reflect that you've actually done your research in that school. You know everything about that school, and of course, how you are going to contribute your quota to that particular school. What makes you special? How you're going to contribute to that school? Yeah. So those are the things, and of course, you should be able to structure it also, like I said in the other Chevening essays. It has to have logical flow, and all those things must show, introduction, your body. You need to put it all there, and then your conclusion. So those questions must be answered in your personal statement. And if they are not answered, it means that you're not very clear what you want to what it's not very clear why you're applying to that school. Is it because you just heard about the school, you decided, okay, let me just apply to that school? No. You need to show that you've really done your research and that you really want that school. You need to also show your passion for that school and what you're going to do for that school and how you're going to use your course in the future for the development of your country.
Good. So, Dr. Cassandra, I just want to thank you for explaining the tuning application process. Then you explain the leadership example, leadership essay, networking essay, why you want to study in UK, career goals, and then she explained about London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine application process. And then she explained why this particular university is famous for, why her course is so famous. And then she explained in a detailed manner how to write a statement of purpose for any university, for any course. So I just yeah. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Cassandra, for taking out time and explaining the application process, the Chevening scholarship application process in a very detailed manner. And I'm sure it will help many people, not only in India, but across the world. So thank you so much for coming on the ForeignGrad platform and explaining and sharing your experience with the viewer. Thank you very much, Dr. Cassandra.
Thank you so much too for having me. It's been such a while since I've seen you, so I'm just happy to hang out with you and just discuss this Chevening journey of ours. It's always fun actually to catch up. So hopefully at the end of this COVID-19 situation we can come back.
Definitely, everything will be fine. Thank you, Doctor.
Yes.
With this, I will end this interview, and our next interview is about another scholar, and she is going to speak about how to approach MS degree in MS degree application in US and understanding big data job opportunities in US. So our